What is up, wrestling fans and Pokemon fans? Welcome to a special episode of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, joined as always by Robert E. Felice.
I want to be the very best, like no one ever was, but I don't want it to take me the 20 years that it took Ash Ketchum to catch all Pokemon.
Hey, but wouldn't it be great if you can, after 20 years, still be the same age?
It would be tremendous, but it would also be concerning.
Well, what we're doing today is something that we've been talking about for a long time on this channel, and it's also something that I want to do some stuff for fanboysanonymous.com, the website that is all dedicated to video games and comics and movies and TV shows, all geek culture kind of things like that. More on that a little bit later, but we've been talking about trying to do some Pokemon related things for a lot of different methods. One of them is potential of what if certain characters were Pokemon and what if certain characters had Pokemon teams. For instance, on the Fanboys Anonymous side of things, Kirby is one that I have a lot of notes for. If you want something like that, you got to let me know. On the pro wrestling side of things, I have notes for things like what if Cody Rhodes was a Pokemon, which sounds absolutely ridiculous, but trust me, these actually work. And the more friends of mine that I've talked about with these things, they have very solid opinions of, well, no, I think that, Ted DiBiase should be this type, or, there's no way that Rhea Ripley is a poison type or something along those lines. We're not doing those quite today, but it is Pokemon Day when this is going to be released. We're recording this a little bit before it. It's 11:45 at night. But another idea that was pitched to us was, what if there were Elite Four members, gym leaders? Well, technically, what if there was an Elite Four and a champion when it comes to WWE eras? I am expanding that, and I'm also including the 8 gym leaders because I figured, hey, if I'm going to go down this rabbit hole, we might as well, go full down. So the first, I guess, official edition of Pokemon What If is where I'm going to kind of consolidate all these things. That's what we're going to be doing today. So we are going to talk WWE eras exclusively, not like pro wrestling eras that include AEW and New Japan and TNA and all those things. WCW, I don't even think we would necessarily have like an, actually, I don't know. Maybe if we go down the rabbit hole in this, we might end up being like, what's the WCW group? And it's just one WCW group or something. We'll figure it out. We'll see how long this goes. Because this is a bonus episode. So it's not quite a Darkcast, but if you do want to support us, the Darkcast here is part of our Patreon and YouTube channel membership. So support us on those, get access to those things. They are special bonus episodes that you can get access to only through those two methods. And keep in mind all the other things that you should be doing here. You should make sure that you are on this YouTube channel hitting the like button. Double check that you are subscribed. Ring that notification bell. That way you get those email alerts for when we go live for things like the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view point post-show immediately following the pay-per-view on Saturday. Am I talking fast? I feel like I'm talking fast.
No, you're
but Redbubble and TeePublic is where you could also pick up merchandise. That's for Smark Moment, A Mango Tees, and Fanboys Anonymous if you want some different jokes and stuff there. Also chat it up in the Discord server. We have a channel on the Discord server that's for fanboys, so if you are a big Pokemon fan and you just happen to like pro wrestling too, that's a place where you can hang out, and it's best of both worlds. So essentially what we're going to be doing here is kind of a version of the top rope list that we've done before, but instead of this being a traditional top rope list in the sense of like, okay, well, we have the bronze rope, the silver rope, and the gold rope, and instead of it being like a Mount Rushmore where we have like the 4 main things, we're going to just adapt it a little bit more. So that means we're in spreadsheet territory, and that means that this spreadsheet that you see on your screen right now is what let's go spreadsheets is the set of notes that I had been working with when I was just trying to hammer out if this concept would make any sense, or if I had enough ideas in my mind of where it would go. Because if I just did an idea on the whim, we would have had so many podcasts that would have failed. If you're listening to this on audio only versions, you can't see the screen, but you're going to be able to hear us. So I recommend you go to YouTube. But if you're on Spotify and all that stuff too, Amazon Music or Apple Music or something like that, thank you for supporting us there. So this is not a set list by any means. I'm getting Rob's perspective on this. He's going to definitely correct me on some ideas that I have that he has better ideas for. And I've got a lot of blanks that I got to fill. And I don't have anybody really set in any kind of ways, except for a few things that I think are kind of set in stone. So I'm thinking we could go era by era, but we might also hit a snag. And then if we do hit a snag, then we can kind of come back to it at another point. Because one thing that I would say I think is essentially set in stone is out of all these different eras, and it's a little bit confusing when it comes to the PG era, the reality era, the current era, ruthless aggression, and they kind of blend in a little bit. I think Hulk Hogan absolutely is the golden era champion. I don't think anybody in that running for those 10 plus years can overtake Hulkamania.
Yeah, I mean, personal biases aside,
Yeah.
You know, he's the guy for that era, and it's funny because I was thinking about this as we were doing it. There's no like super Americano Pokemon, but for obvious reasons. But that would be the kind of way I would go with Hogan. But I guess if I had to pick, I'm going with like fighting and maybe normal or like a rock type.
I don't remember exactly what I have down for Hogan. We're not going to be giving types to everybody that's on here for anybody that's wondering, because I have my giant set of notes for all these things. I probably shouldn't spoil it for everybody. For a second there, you saw that Tyranitar is obviously a Godzilla on Godzilla's team. I have Hogan down as let's see. Hogan is down as anywhere between fighting, electric, rock, ground, fire, and then dark for NWO era. So I haven't quite settled on that. I'm probably going to have to do a separate NWO Hogan and like red and yellow Hogan. But fire, rock, fighting, electric, maybe not ground as much. He's somewhere in that territory. Dark for sure on the NW side of things, but yeah, it's a discussion for another day when it comes to that. Hogan is definitely the champion of that era. And then that's where I started to write down a bunch of different people down as, who could fill these other spots. So it is a ranking as far as, gym leader 1 is like Brock in the first game, where you're not going to have that much of a fight against them, but they are still better than the other trainers. And as you get higher up, you get to Giovanni at the gym leader 8. Eventually you get to Lorelei and Bruno and Agatha's next, then Lance. That's kind of how the ranking would go on the top rope list side. So when it comes to number 2 behind Hogan, I kind of feel like that in this golden era is probably Macho Man Randy Savage. What about you?
I don't think there's a probably there. I think it is Macho Man Randy Savage.
Number 3, like the Elite Four, number 3 that, Macho Man would have beaten to get to that point. That is a little bit more up for debate, I think, because Ultimate Warrior is a very solid pick. These are not in order, by the way, for anybody that's wondering. These are just names that I wrote down. It's tough if you want to classify like Flair. This is a possibility for that. Mr. Perfect was big around that time. Andre the Giant is another big option for that. Big and giant, I think the idea about Bobby Heenan is really interesting because he was the guy that was feuding with Hogan for like a while. And it was like Heenan would just get like a new person to represent. But then it decided like, is he like Elite Four Bobby Heenan and his like Pokemon or Andre the Giant and stuff? You know what I mean? Again, we're not booking a team for him yet, but like.
It all depends on what kind of story we would be telling. Like, are we telling a story of interesting competitors to kind of go through as you're making your way through these gyms, or are you just kind of ranking, okay, if I'm doing it in my head, it's like Andre, then Warrior, then Savage, then Hogan, or is it okay, Hogan's the top, but you gotta have like a lower level heel that can be like a good inside, a good first step, like like a Rick Martel, and then into a Ted DiBiase.
So I'm kind of approaching it as if you were the equivalent of a trainer where like, you start off the game and you're given everybody always says starter Pokemon, but they gave it another term. I forget what they call it officially. I think it's like first partner Pokemon or something. You get to pick between Charmander, Squirtle, and Bulbasaur. And then you go through the world and it's like they've already established a hierarchy and you are like the underdog that goes through up the tournament, kind of. I kind of look at it that way. So if you were like a new wrestler in this era and you had to like work your way up to, I guess if it was like a Mortal Kombat, like you work your way up to Shang Tsung and you have to fight Goro beforehand, like, that kind of thing.
Right. So at that point, then I'm saying,
with like Piper's in the mix for like one of these top, at the very least, I would say, I'm not going to put these in those spots exactly, but like, I think that this group that I'm moving around is definitely higher up than anybody else that's on here. For at least for the golden era. And we're not ranking them based off of like skills or like, personal preferences. We'd be like, oh, fuck, Bret Hart's, super high up and Undertaker super high up.
Okay, and we're doing the 8 gym leaders as well, right? Okay, so that changes things. So then at that point I say,
because like DiBiase is a big part of that. Piper's a big part of that.
At elite number 2, I'd probably say Warrior elite 3, and then Bobby Heenan elite 1. But then
over Andre?
Yeah.
Or is Andre the last gym leader?
Then there's the Andre of it all.
And then there's Piper, too.
Andre is the elite, I would say. I would say Piper as the last gym leader. Heenan before that.
Heenan's in that Cinnabar Island kind of spot.
I don't know if I want to count Flair.
Well, Flair is like, he's a big part of 1992. And he's a big part of like 2 WrestleManias. But to be perfectly honest, WWF was not his spot. So that's where that comes into play a little bit, where it's like, yeah, WCW around that era, NWA and all that.
It feels like we were crossing the Digimon guy over, and I just don't want to do that.
Just for the sake of it, because I know I'm going to end up doing it at some point. Ric Flair's the champion of WCW, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just going to write down some other people just before I forget about them.
Hold on. We will do it.
Yeah.
It takes 5 seconds.
Well, let's figure out Golden Era first, and then we'll go back to WCW, I guess. Because we're halfway done with that. So if that's the case, I think Ric Flair can potentially just be off of that list.
So then I would put Jake Roberts underneath Heenan.
Even above like Perfect and
yes,
and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, Roberts was a big part of it, so I don't disagree.
Okay, then I would put, given who you have here, I'd go Mr. Perfect.
Well, I might be forgetting people too. This was mostly through memory. I actually, not that I think that he really should be there, but like Brutus the Barber Beefcake is another guy that was like pretty big around that era.
Beefcake.
He'd have a lot of bulky Pokemon. But like Bam Bam Bigelow was big, but he didn't win anything. So is that really gym leader, or is that really just like a tough trainer?
So like, okay, we now have to fill in the first five gym leaders, right?
Yeah, so they get progressively worse throughout the whole thing, which means like,
so then
Maybe somebody
Honestly,
like a Honky Tonk Man could be like the first gym leader, where it's like, okay, that actually wasn't all that hard, you
so
know?
my thought for the first gym leader was Duggan. I think he's definitely in the first five.
He was a big deal. He won the first Royal Rumble. Not that it mattered as much as it matters now, but
Then I would say, hmm,
I know that when it comes to somebody like Snuka and like Tito and Don Baracco, I think that there's 4 bigger spots than that. I think Rick Rude is another potential option.
Rick Rude's probably going in. Honky Tonk Man is going in.
Iron Sheik, or do we count that as pre-Golden Era because Hogan beats him to do that? Like Iron Sheik would be in the era of like Bruno, and actually, I don't have that on this list. But then again, I don't really know a lot of those people.
I'm thinking of Hasbro's here. Like I'm thinking of that toy lineup. For those who don't know, I'm not explaining the history of Hasbro's, but what you need to know is that was like the definitive action figure lineup of the Hogan era, and I'm trying to think of like
the ones with the really like
iconic
set plastic arms.
yeah.
I had a couple of those. Oh, well, Legion of Doom. I don't know.
See, hold on, because I was thinking of Legion of Doom.
Because Legion of Doom, I'm going to spoil something for the Attitude Era. I have it written down here. New Age Outlaws as a double battle. Double battles are a thing.
Yeah, then I'd absolutely Legion of Doom. Maybe as like the battle before Jake.
See, I would put Rick Rude over Legion of Doom.
Legion of Doom is pretty badass.
Demolition is also
I
another.
was gonna make that argument.
Earthquake was pretty big. Big Boss Man was pretty big.
Boss Man, I'm thinking about. Perfect, I'm thinking about.
Perfect, I think, has to be on there.
All right, so let's say I think we've got our people. Let's go from Jim Duggan to Honky Tonk Man.
Honky Tonk Man definitely can't be higher than 2.
Rick Rude.
You're thinking Rude next.
Perfect. LOD.
So now that does take somebody like Undertaker out, but I would argue Undertaker
Undertaker's gonna be.
He doesn't get into there until New Gen more.
Yeah, that's why I didn't pick Bret either.
Same kind of argument for Bret. Yeah, Bret's like working in the mid card, a tag team, and it's not like they're not going to be on this list. It can be
argued that he would take the gym leader 1 spot, but we're going to get to him as a champion of New Gen Era. Spoilers. You have Taker. I'm going to fight you.
Yeah. I think that there's room to potentially move Honky Tonk Man to number 1 and to put somebody else on there instead of Hacksaw. But I don't exactly know who I would pick out of that, because part of me thinks Earthquake, part of me thinks...
Well, because my thing is it's number 1. So if it's not like a Duggan, it's like a Steamboat.
I do think Big Boss Man was a big deal.
I think what throws me off a little bit is the Bobby Heenan of it all.
I mean, Bobby Heenan, we could take out, move everybody up in some way, and just kind of be like,
well, if Heenan's there, then his Pokemon are the Heenan family, and it's like you can't have Andre as a Pokemon. But realistically, he did.
I mean, if you put it this way, like Andre / Bobby Heenan, that does open up. And then I'd be tempted to be like, okay, like you move those around and you put like Boss Man at number 3 even. And part of me kind of thinks that Legion of Doom needs to go down a little bit. But then again, they were a big, big deal. I mean, like anything else, if we are in a situation where we don't know exactly what to do, if we can't, settle on something, it really doesn't matter. So it's not like it's like something where we'd be like, they're going to be really offended or something if they didn't get into that spot. Overall, I feel kind of confident in this list. Because I would think I would pick Demolition underneath Legion of Doom. And no, I still think Legion of Doom might need to go down.
Okay, how long was it muted?
About a minute or so, I guess.
Because I was saying words.
Oh, yeah, you were muted then.
Yeah, I would.
I think I would put Legion of Doom underneath Rude and Perfect.
I can live with that.
I think overall that this works. So I'm Ricky Steamboat and stuff, like they are big deals, but again, it's a limited list. Not everybody can make it. Maybe Rick Martel over Hacksaw, but Hacksaw
was so
like he was such a big baby face at the time.
You guys, if you didn't watch during that era, and let's be clear, I've watched back because I wasn't alive, but when you watch it back, he's like the number 3 overall babyface for a long time.
Yeah, he's there for a while, and he's in an era where if they would have had more titles and stuff, he would have won at least the Intercontinental title.
Right, and if winning titles was as important as it is today, he would have won titles.
Yeah. So I think we're good on the golden era. The WCW thing, that's spans.
Okay, Flair's the champion.
That spans all eras of that.
Sting is elite number 4 right before Flair.
We got like Kevin Nash, Scott Hall as potentials. Dallas Page, of course, Booker T, Sting, Ric Flair,
Lex Luger,
Vader, Lex Luger. Should probably move these down so that way I know we're not like running out of space. Even that alone still has 5 other people to add to there.
I'm trying not to have much crossover.
Dandy, no. The cruiserweights represented by somebody, but there's a lot of them.
It would have to be Ray.
Mysterio.
Ray would have to be the
Dean Malenko.
Dean could be
Mongo McMichael.
Mongo, the Fun Gym leader.
Stereo, Eddie Guerrero. It's another option on the cruiserweight side.
Giant.
The Giant, yep. Kevin Sullivan.
He's got to be a gym leader. He's
like
the
guy was the leader of a group. So,
they literally, it was his dungeon.
There's still Macho Man.
Yeah, I'm trying not to think about like where do you add Macho and Hogan and all that, because you have Goldberg down.
Oh God, I've ever seen Goldberg.
What are you, Bret Hart?
Yeah. Now Bret Hart, I would definitely not put in there. Scott Steiner is an option.
I'd probably tag him with Rick.
Jeff Jarrett's an option. Goldberg's a definite. Sting's a definite. Booker T's definite. DDP's definite.
So in my world, it goes Sting, then Goldberg, then Luger.
Oops.
But I tend to rank Luger higher than most.
Luger's a big part of it. Like, he just doesn't get the credit that he deserves when it comes to that.
Yeah. I think because he's been inactive for 20 years, unlike the rest of them.
Definitely some of these over some other ones.
Bischoff should probably be a gym leader.
He's in the discussion for sure. The Dusty Rhodes. Do we not have Dusty on there?
He's gonna have to be on here.
It's a lot harder when you go through a time frame as big as WCW is, and just one big thing, you know. Because obviously, like a more like new blood type of thing has more like Jeff Jarrett and stuff. But do we go Goldberg or Sting as the?
I go Sting. Absolutely, I go absolutely Sting.
Sting and then Goldberg.
Then Goldberg. And then I go Luger.
Part of me thinks DDP. Part of me thinks Vader. Part of me thinks Luger. Part of me thinks that's where you just have to throw Hogan in there.
I go DDP and then I go Luger.
You're thinking DDP, Luger.
If we're throwing Hogan in there,
Hogan was a big part for many years.
We have to do it Hollywood.
Right.
And you have to move DDP and Luger down. And he's underneath Goldberg.
He's definitely higher up than, like, Savage. Truth be told, I don't even know if Savage necessarily gets on the list. But
outside of that, I go Giant.
Giant's in there. Vader. Can't forget about Vader.
I'm going Vader after Giant. I'm going Ray to represent the Cruiserweights. I'm saying...
We got Nash and we got Hall.
I'm saying a double battle with Nash and Hall.
Outlaws.
And a double battle with Rick and Scott Steiner.
Outsiders, we can throw them both in there and we can do double battle on that front. We got Eric Bischoff, we got Kevin Solo, we got Booker T, we got the Cruiserweight. Somebody in the Cruiserweights definitely has to be.
How many spots left? 4?
4 spots. So 1 spot for a Cruiserweight.
I'm opening with the Cruiserweight, and I'm saying it's Ray.
Going Ray. I agree on that. Because even though Eddie was a big part of that, like Ray's the guy that like... If it wasn't
Ray, I'll tell you my runner-up pick would be Dean. I'm going Booker T after that.
There is a big argument for Dean for that, yeah.
I'm going Booker T as a solo after that.
I'm going to write this down for posterity reasons. Cruiserweight. Gauntlet. They don't do that in Pokemon, so that doesn't really make any sense.
Well, it's just still. Flying type.
Yeah. For anybody that's curious, Rey Mysterio is 100% a flying type in my typing things. And obviously he has some Pokemon like Hawlucha. So we got 3 spots for all these guys.
I'm going Booker,
Dusty, and Sullivan.
Yeah, that's probably what I would do.
Maybe Sullivan number 2. Booker, because he was a top guy like that. Dusty at number 3 sounds so low. But then again,
well, we did end up kind of going with a more new school approach, and Dusty is there to like make sure the old school is represented.
It's back to WWE. Still WWF era, new gen. This is my jam. We got 24 people that I wrote down just thinking of names. I think champion's got to be Bret.
Yeah.
Now, when you get Taker, Michaels, Diesel, Razor, Yoko, and Psycho Sid, and all these other people in there, that gets a little bit harder to figure that out. Diesel's definitely over Razor.
Okay, do you want to know how... here's how I rank this. From Elite 1 through Elite 4. Razor.
So you're putting not these 5 get in there. You're putting Razor as number 1.
I'm putting Yoko as the final gym leader.
I think that could be fair because he's not around as long.
I'm going Razor, Diesel,
Michaels, Taker.
I think so. Yeah, there's an argument to be made for Taker Michaels, but
I could. That's really tough because Taker is an attraction all by himself. Michaels becomes champion. Taker doesn't become champion until 97, which is the end of this like era in a lot of ways. But he's perpetually in the. That's really tough, Taker and Michaels.
Because you want to know the truth. There's also an argument to make it Bret, Taker, Diesel, Michaels.
True, because Diesel's holding the championship for an entire year.
He gets it for an entire year. He's the last chance at like a literal face of the company guy. It doesn't work, but try.
Now Shawn wins 2 of these Royal Rumbles.
Yeah, and Shawn's world champion.
Main events WrestleMania twice in a row.
Shawn's world champion 3 times in this era. He's IC champion 3 times in this era.
I think I'd put Shawn over Diesel, but it's really tough, Taker and HBK. But I kind of agree that maybe Taker just smidges out Shawn.
I agree.
Because really, if you think about it, as much as it hates me to say this, because these are my 3 top favorites of all time, and that like never really changes, and these are like practically my top 5. You know what I mean? It is kind of a thing where if you got rid of Shawn Michaels in this era, you still have Bret, you still have Taker. If you get rid of Bret and Taker, what do you do? So I kind of feel like
you gotta hope that Diesel and Razor never leave.
Right. Gym leaders 1 through 7. That's a little bit more up there. Now I'm not going to pick
gym leader number 1. I'm going Doink.
See, I put Doink on here because I was like, Doink needs to be in the discussion somewhere.
I think you start with Doink.
He's such a big character around that time frame, and it sounds ridiculous, but it's like, no, Doink was fucking popular, man. Like he kind of defaulted into like a major top babyface role. And even somebody like Tatanka or like Crush is like, they were reading my mind.
I was just about to go, well, there's also Tatanka.
Now you and I are very much more pro Jeff Jarrett than a lot of other people.
Oh, Jeff Jarrett's higher up on the. He's probably gym leader number 6 for me.
Oops.
7 is Owen.
Owen goes above Jarrett.
Yeah. And then I say...
But I mean, Jarrett was one of those like perpetual Intercontinental champions. And again, we've talked about this before. If there would have been 2 world titles, Jarrett would have been a world champion. Guaranteed.
And then I say Sid under that.
Sid is definitely somebody to really keep in mind because he's champion twice.
Sid's champion twice. Let me put it to you like this. Psycho Sid, if he's around, he's in and around the top of the card.
Pretty much.
Perpetual. Like he's one of those last like getting booked based on his body kind of guys, and he's always a top guy.
I would say I'm moving some people around on the list for anybody that's not watching on the video side of it. I would say Ahmed and Bam Bam are not going to get in the final 3 spots. I would say there's an argument to put British Bulldog with Owen Hart just to get him on there. Ted DiBiase is a big part of this. I don't know if I'd pick him over certain people. I don't think Vader gets on there. I think he comes in too late in 96 and does too little in 97 overall. Hunter Hearst Helmsley is not in there for 93, 94, 95 as much of a prominent spot. And Triple H is going to be plenty on this list.
So, you know who I actually put at gym leader spot number 2? Jerry Lawler.
Jerry Lawler's big in this time frame. Jerry Lawler not only has the whole feud with Bret, but look at even in 97, he's a big featured, moment in the 97 Royal Rumble. There's an argument for Jerry Lawler.
I think you put him there. I think the final 2 spots.
I think ultimately Savio doesn't get on there. I don't think
I
Stone
think
Cold does at this
Stone
point because
Cold's not getting on
he
there.
gets in the Attitude Era, and I'm gonna talk about him for sure. I do think that Jake Roberts doesn't get on there.
No.
I don't think Tatanka makes it.
So it's kind of weird. I guess put Bulldog and Owen together.
We got 2 spots for arguably 6 people. Luger, I think ultimately, as much as it kind of sucks to be like, no, that he doesn't really count, 93 is his best year. And New Gen moves on from Luger. 94, he wins Royal Rumble. He goes to WrestleMania, loses. By 95, he's teaming with Bulldog at Mania, and then he's gone. Ted DiBiase's a manager. He's a big part of the whole thing. But I don't know if I go with him on the final 2 spots over Goldust and Triple H and British Bulldog.
So there's a couple people missing here.
Who do I have missing?
Not that I think you'd make the list, but you do. We haven't done the obligatory Mabel. But somebody who I think should be one of the earlier challenges, 1, 2, 3 Kid.
I'll add a couple more to this discussion point. Smoking Guns.
I was gonna bring up the Smoking Guns as the potential de facto double.
Sunny.
She'd be kind of a fun gym leader option. If you wanted to get Farouk in there, he goes in here and not Attitude, I think.
I don't think Farouk has a spot over like Goldust and Bulldog and Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
There's also Hakushi, but I don't think he gets.
No, definitely not Hakushi. 1, 2, 3 Kid's very interesting though. Not that he's gonna get on there, but fucking Bob Holly, man, he's around forever.
Start your engine, though.
Good old spark plug. Sunny. Now that I thought about that, Sunny's kind of an interesting one to pick. I mean, at this point, I think we kind of have to team British Bulldog.
We're gonna have to merge.
And Owen Hart, we're kind of gonna be a little cheap on that way, but hey, we're only doing it like one team thing. It seems. Well,
so if they get the team
kind of are what we get to do, but
then we don't need to worry about Smoking Guns.
Yeah,
but they would have been the de facto team.
I don't know why I felt like I needed to do the theme. Crush is interesting, but I don't think Crush goes over Goldust or Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
So I'm saying Goldust 1, 2, 3 Kid.
There is Wildman Mark Merrow as well, but I don't think he goes over them.
Nah. I'm saying Goldust 1, 2, 3 Kid.
1, 2, 3 Kid's definitely in that. Man. Well, Goldust comes in, 95?
Yeah.
Like late 95? Or is it?
He does. He comes in October.
So Goldust 95. He becomes a big deal. He's Intercontinental Champion. He's feuding with Razor. Hunter Hearst Helmsley almost won King of the Ring.
Hunter Hearst Helmsley comes in April 95. He's undefeated for the entire calendar year. He's undefeated until he gets squashed by Warrior.
3 spots. I think we kind of do have it marked down to these 3 for those 2 spots. But now I'm kind of second guessing. Maybe we'd knock Doink out.
See, but I like Doink for this era because he's such a strong embodiment. The goofy shit that this era was.
When does Doink leave?
95? That's something that you'll see a lot in this new gen. Is like most of these guys come in and they're out super quick. But
And
they
that's not
do
even
make
counting the lower people like, Ludwig Borga and stuff.
Hey, Survivor Series main eventer. All right, like.
And for anybody that's wondering, Rocky Maivia does not go on the new gen list. No. 1-2-3 Kid. I'm really liking that idea about 1-2-3 Kid being potentially maybe one of the first ones.
He's such a plucky spirit. I think he'd be fun after Lawler.
Man, this is tough. This is way harder than I thought it was going to be. I thought New Gen was going to be one of the easiest ones.
But the thing is, if you think Goldust deserves to be on there, there's almost an argument to be made. Why aren't we talking about Ahmed? Like,
Ahmed's got a really good 1 year for sure.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like when you look at a name like Tatanka and a name like Ahmed, these are people who had strong 12 to 18 month runs.
Which is so insane nowadays. Because we look at things and we just go like, oh yeah, that person is in the midst of a push, and the push is 3 fucking years long or something.
Or it's like Chad Gable, and you're like, oh, he's still got time. It's fucking.
He's only been on the roster for like 10 years.
10 years.
Get that Damian Priest, that kid Damian Priest to do this. Oh, he's 40 something and he's been in NXT since like 2000 whatever. Like, it's. Oh, this is tough. I think with these 3, 1-2-3 Kid, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and Goldust, I think one of them's going to knock out either Lawler or Doink for me.
So here's another thing. Food for thought. If we're adding Goldust, I think we need to talk about Mankind.
Mankind's 96, 97.
Mankind is right after me in 96.
Well, Mick Foley is 100% an Attitude Era. We know that.
I mean, yeah, he's going to be one of the elite gym leaders.
This is one of the things that I'm thinking. Goldust is somewhere in New Gen and Attitude Era for sure. He drops down in Attitude for sure. Hunter Hearst Helmsley upgrades in Attitude. Maybe we put a pin on these for now and come back. Champion of the Attitude Era, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah.
Obviously. When it comes to number 2, like Elite 4.
Is the champion Vince? And then the Elite 4 being Austin, Taker, Rock, Mankind.
I think you got something there. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, Austin was always feuding with Vince, and Vince isn't. The only way that I think it could be different is if you swap Vince and Austin.
But if we're gonna have Vince, and again, this isn't real, wrestling's not real, Pokemon aren't real, but like, if we're gonna have Vince, I see no other placement for him other than Final Boss.
I mean, he is the top of the company.
Which is a weird thing to say now that The Rock's there. But never mind that.
I think if you do Vince, Stone Cold, Rock, Mick Foley, Undertaker, I think that probably Triple H becomes gym leader number 8, and Kane is probably gym leader number 7.
Yeah, I agree with that placement.
I don't need to keep the note about the double battle gym leader thing to remind myself, but New Age Outlaws are going on this list for sure. Just maybe not number 6.
Gym leader number 1 has to be China.
Oh, I didn't think about China. I like that idea. So that's one of those things where I was like, I knew that you're going to be like bringing up some people that I completely forgot about for some fucking reason. Now, gym leader number 2 is Flash Funk, right?
I mean, well, we go back to the new generation era for that. So here's where it gets tricky. More tricky than the other eras. How far are we classifying? Because there's an argument to be made that gym leader number 8 should just be DX of Shawn and Hunter. But then there's an argument to be made of, like, we could be talking about a 2001 Hardy Boys on this list.
So I tried to look up a couple different things with the eras, and according to a lot of things, it had the Attitude Era going up to 2002. And then 2002 is when Ruthless Aggression is, according to them, 2002 to 2008.
That sweet spot and just say, okay, we're doing Attitude mostly 98 to 99 and leave off like the Hardy Boys.
I mean, it's definitely 1997 to whenever.
To 2001, but I'm asking you, like, when you're picking this list, do you just think of the thick of the popularity of 98, 99?
Like 98, 99 are like, that is core Attitude Era. 97 is getting into the mix a little bit, and you know, you're getting Degeneration X and you're getting Ken Shamrock and some other people like that. 98 is like, okay, Austin Era has begun. That is one of those definitive moments for sure.
But like, my thing is, if you're talking, if this is 98, X-Pac is on this list, right?
Right.
But if this is 2000,
yeah,
the Hardy
2001,
Boys
2002
are on this list, and X-Pac is nowhere near it.
I think X-Pac still gets on the list. Because, I mean, he's still used in the 2000 Royal Rumble. I don't think he is in 2001, actually. Is he in 2001?
There's
also, I'm going to use SmackDown Hotel, because they have some good era stuff here. Attitude
Why does
Era.
Bearcat Wright's face look like AI?
It probably is. Oh, I don't have Big Show down, do I? As a possibility. I didn't want to forget about Big Show, because he's a big part of this. Bradshaw, Booker T.
Man, there's an argument for it gone. It's a very small argument, but there's an argument.
A couple of other people that, an argument, Godfather, Val Venus.
Hey man, we could Pokemon battle. Or you could take these hoes. Like,
I'm glad you brought up China, because China definitely should be in that. Edge, Eddie Draws, Finley, no. Gilbert, no. Unfortunately, not Grandmaster Sexay or Hurricane.
Mae Young would be a fun one.
Just Joe.
Joey Legend. Joe Legend.
Yeah, that's funny. I forgot about Joey Legend. There's Lita. There's really Mark Canterbury had this kind of thing going on at one point. I don't remember that at all.
Okay, so the Godwins briefly switched up to call themselves Southern Justice, and they were like Jeff Jarrett's bodyguards.
That's right. Southern Justice. Wow. Look at young Randy Orton. Not seeing a whole lot of other people that I think are with it. Oh, Sable.
Well, Sable, that's why I brought up China.
Sable's somebody to talk about for sure. I don't think Shawn Michaels gets on the Attitude Era, actually.
I'm fine with that.
Because he's leading into it, but then he, very beginning of 98, he's gone. And yes, he is around in some way, but like, not really, Trish, probably not.
No.
Not over Sable.
Honestly, if you're putting Sable on this list, then China's not the opening gym leader. Sable is. And China can be underneath Kane.
China might be ranking above those. Yeah.
China was the Intercontinental Champion. And they didn't need to create one for the women just to have her win it.
So New Age Outlaws definitely gets on here. Put them in some kind of...
I'd put them above Sable.
Number 2? I think I'd put them a little bit even higher than some of these other people.
It's going to depend on who we get. Ken Shamrock should
So if there's 4 spots, Ken Shamrock's a possibility. I think he outranks Goldust. I don't think Dudley Boys necessarily get on there. Hardy Boys are worth a discussion. Jericho's a tough guy too.
List. Jericho will get on the Ruthless Aggression list. So will Big Show, by the way.
And Big Show comes in 99. 99, right?
Yeah. Valentine's Day.
And then he's a big deal for 2000.
Kind of. He's only a big deal for the first 3 months. Then he gets sent to fat camp.
That's right. I forgot about that.
And that's not me being mean. That's what they say.
It's what happened. I think New Age Outlaws might be a little bit lower than China number 5 even out of all these.
Oh, yeah.
Big Boss Man's kind of a big deal, but I don't know if I'd put him on there. Maybe Shamrock is number 4.
Shamrock is number 2.
Number 2? Who do you think goes above Shamrock?
I'm trying to think of the best representation for the hardcore division. So there's like Boss Man and Holly and Crash Holly.
I mean, we could throw, even though we're trying not to do as many team ones, we could throw the Hollies.
Well, there's also like Steve Blackman. He's a really fun idea for like a badass gym leader.
Al Snow.
Head.
I don't know what Head would be. Was that a Ghastly or something?
Al Snow and Head. Like
Edge and Christian have parts in the Brood, and they are Edge and Christian. Val Venus and Godfather are bigger deals than Edge and Christian for a while, though. X-Pac is a bigger deal, but he never wins a title. Except for, like, European or whatever. But, like, yeah, he doesn't win Intercontinental.
Damn, you're just shitting on the European title for no reason.
Or do we throw a group together of Nation of Domination?
See, I don't know.
Because The Rock's in there very high up. And, you know, if we have to pick one over anybody else, obviously The Rock. But Nation of Domination was pretty big. And that does include Owen. Owen's not on this.
Yeah, I'm good not putting Owen in the Attitude Era. I'd rather remember him for the New Gen stuff.
That's what I think of for Owen. If anybody says, like, picture Owen Hart, I picture he's got 2 slammies in his hand. You know what I mean?
There's an argument that can be made for, like, Shane McMahon being an early gym leader.
Maybe even number 1. Like, bookend it. Shane number 1, and Vince number the
I'd
champion.
actually be all right with that.
And bump up Sable.
And then having, like, one spot.
One spot to go to Val Venus, Godfather, Big Show, X-Pac, Goldust, Dudley Boys, Hardy Boys. I don't think Dudley Boys go over any of those. Jericho, Edge, Christian. See, when it comes to 2000 to 2002, that's where my gap starts to come in. So it's hard for me to really weigh, like, how big was Taka Michinoku then or something, you know?
Like, say he's not big enough to get on this list.
I would say Godfather overtakes Val, at least.
Yeah, I have no problem agreeing with that. That's completely accurate.
And then, I mean, Godfather over Val Venus. I don't know if I'd pick any of these other ones over Godfather. But then I don't know if I'd pick Godfather over Ken Shamrock either. So maybe move up people or do something like that.
I think Shamrock has to be there.
At number 3, you mean?
Just like he needs a solid spot because he's like the representation of true toughness and grit.
Maybe move Shamrock up to 4. Put Godfather at number 3. That leaves X-Pac off. It leaves Big Show off. But then again, we don't have spots for everybody.
I think that's fair, actually.
Godfather's really fun. He's really, he's big a part of the Nation of Domination. He is Kama Mustafa and Godfather and Goodfather. Goodfather's 2001, 2002, right?
Yeah,
Is that Ruthless Aggression? Yeah, I think Godfather's earned a spot there then. So that then goes back to New Gen with those 2 spots of
now
1, 2, 3 Kid, Hunter Helmsley.
Now I'm confident it's Goldust and 1, 2, 3 Kid for me.
Now, what about the idea about Hunter Helmsley over Doink?
No, Doink is so... He's Doink. He's like the embodiment of that era. Like, the silliness. Lawler and Doink bring the silly. 1, 2, 3 Kid brings the spunk and the new generation. Like, Goldust brings that, like, weirdo, the Attitude Era is on the rise kind of mentality.
I'll defer to you on that.
I just said that as though, like, hold on, let me rewind that. Because that came up.
Wrestling's so fucking stupid.
No, well, yes. But specifically for Goldust, that came off wildly, like, too corporate for me. Like, as if I'm describing him the way that they would. Like, he's androgynous and he's... Look,
He's Goldust a weirdo on the rise.
Yeah. I'm realizing what I said. I don't like what I said, so I'm changing it. Goldust was a very, he was a queer character, and it was very forward thinking, and I think was a good sign of what the Attitude Era was going to bring. And he's also a great Intercontinental Champion in that era. Sid is a perennial main eventer in that era. Jeff Jarrett is a perennial IC champion. Owen and Bulldog.
They're like the definitive upper mid-carders.
Yeah, they're the definitive heels, because if you think about it,
they feud with Taker, they feud with Michaels, they feud with Bret, they feud with Diesel, they feud with Razor.
They feud with everybody.
They team with Yoko.
And then they team in the end with, like, Bret. Yoko is a great example of, like, early New Gen top heel, and then once you get to the top 5, it's the literal faces of that era.
Yeah, and somebody like a Luger is a great example of, like, you missed out on Golden Era where you would have been a big deal. You got right in at the New Gen, but then you fucked off to WCW. Luger, but hey, look at that. You go into the WCW gym leader list.
Luger, I would be the only one I'd be like, maybe you bump either Doink or Lawler, but I'm good with the list we have.
So Ruthless Aggression.
The champion's Triple H.
I was going to say, this is where things get a little bit confusing to me, because it's like Ruthless Aggression's a build up to John Cena. John Cena, though, is he not the champion of the PG era? I think
he sure is.
And then I think Triple H has to be Ruthless Aggression. And then I would argue Batista goes into that spot above John Cena. But then there's Brock Lesnar. There's Kurt Angle.
Hold on, because I'm going to take Batista and I'm going to argue Angle has to be Elite number 4.
There's a very strong argument for that. And then it's like, you got these other guys that are all in the mix there.
Ooh, this is tough.
Brock is in and out. He makes a big splash.
Brock is in and out. He's at least one of the top gym leaders. He's there, like,
they treat him like he's fucking God, and he beats like everybody in every scenario. I'm gonna
say my opening gym leaders are Jericho.
Don't want to forget about Rock and Hulk Hogan.
Edge.
Why can't I grab this? There you go.
I'm gonna try not to overlap, and then I'm gonna circle back.
I think it's too criminal if we don't put Big Show somewhere
He's
on
gonna
one of
be he's
these.
gonna be higher. He's gonna be higher up for me. So I think the top end of the gym leaders would be JBL,
You think it's JBL at number 8?
like 6.
No, 6.
Let's try that. Big Show at 7. And I think you gotta go Taker at 8.
Taker at 8. Brock being higher.
No, because then 3, 4, and 5 are Cena, Batista, Brock in that order. 3, 4, 5.
You're putting Cena gym leader at
gym leader 3, 4, 5.
You're thinking Cena, Batista, Brock, and you're putting some of these guys at the Elite Four spots over that.
I think. Okay, hold on.
Because remember, Batista gets pushed into the main event.
Yeah, because
in 2004, we're looking. Ruthless Aggression is possibly 2008 is the end.
I'm thinking early Ruthless Aggression right now, which is throwing me off a little bit.
Right. Because Cena and Batista, I don't know exactly when Ruthless Aggression technically is supposed to begin and end and all, and that's where things get a little bit weird to me.
If it's through 2008, then does that make the actual other Elite members 3 to 1 Batista, Cena, and Orton? Because you know Orton on this list.
Well, that's where I get into like the confusion between these top 4. The current era, the reality era, the PG era, the Ruthless Aggression era. Because there's, at least from my perspective as a fan, there feels like there's a big shift from 2002 to 2006. And then it feels like 2006 is almost like, okay, now we get into like, where 2005, 2006 is like Cena territory, Batista, et cetera, et cetera. But then you start getting into like the 2011s and you get into like, I feel like there almost needs to be another era in between here that people don't talk about.
It is. It's like, it's kind of like how I'm talking about with the Attitude Era, where if you talk about it in its peak, it's one thing. And then if you talk about it post-peak, but still in the boom, it's another thing. Ruthless Aggression is the same thing. That's why the way that I'm listing it out is like early Ruthless Aggression. Realistically, I'm looking at it like 2002 through 2004-ish. And I think you're looking at it like 2005 onward, where Cena is elite, guaranteed. You know, Batista is elite, guaranteed.
Because even though that's not technically the PG era, when does the PG era start and end? And what becomes the reality era? Like, that's weird. But then there's a definitive era somewhere where Brock is just, it's Brock and Roman and the Shield. It's the reality era. But it's like, when does the reality era start? Because I kind of look at this current era as like the Bloodline era.
So I can tell you when the reality era starts. I can tell you when the PG era starts, and I can tell you when the Rhea era starts. PG era starts around August 08, when John Cena openly says JBL is poopy. Like, you just know, like, something's wrong. Reality era starts on the road to Wrestle. Yeah, there's a bit of confusion here, because I think Punk tried to get the reality era thing going in 2012, but I think it really starts when Triple H says on Raw, leading up to WrestleMania 30, it's the reality era, and the reality is I have the power to do whatever I want.
So are you thinking reality era is Brock on top, where it's like
it's Roman, Daniel Bryan.
Where's Daniel Bryan? Daniel Bryan. There's like, there's the Triple H, Element. There's CM Punk in here. I didn't have them written down for some reason.
Well, Punk leaves in 2014. You don't need to write him.
Right, I mean, I didn't have him written down anywhere, I think. Yeah, I had him written down here, but that was just like I stopped making my notes.
Realistically, I'm putting Triple H and Stephanie as one elite pairing. Maybe like Elite 1. And then maybe John Cena being the other elite.
For Reality Era?
Maybe.
Because when's he gone?
Around 2017-ish.
2017. And we're in that doldrums period as well, where it's like Sheamus, Del Rio, etc. Is that technically PG era, or is that technically reality? Because that's like 2010 to 2015 or so.
A peek behind the curtain, folks. I sent Tony a video earlier today about
decades.
Oh, we no longer talking decades. We talking eras, and we're getting wildly close to that discussion.
That's basically what it is, because it's like the ruthless aggression thing is even throwing us off. I kind of look at it this way. I don't know where I can put this on the map that we have going on here. I kind of look at, I'll just move my down on here. I think we're currently from 2020 to now is like Bloodline era. And I feel like that's Roman on top. Definitively, it's Bloodline stuff. Then I feel like there's like the Brock era of whatever we would call that. And that's from, when was the match that he comes back with Cena?
2012.
I feel like it's 2012 up until like 2020. And then I kind of feel like there's like another era in there of like, I guess this is PG era, where that's like, probably should write down PG on the other side, that's somewhere in that like 2006 to 2012 kind of range. And then there's like ruthless aggression is more like 2002 to 2005.
See, and in actuality, like, you're cutting the ruthless aggression era a couple of years short there. There's that weird transition to PG era. It's hard.
Like, is ruthless aggression defined by Cena winning the title and being champion, or is it the rise to Cena?
See, I was looking at it as the rise. But if you calculate the actual era being 02 to 08 like it was, then you're like, well, maybe he is in the elite. It's really tough.
Because he's definitely either the leader of an era in between ruthless aggression and PG or PG.
No, he's definitely the leader of PG. That's the era where it was all about him.
And it's weird to say that he's not the champion of an era where he becomes champion in 05 and he's champion in 06 and 07 and 08. Because that's 4 years out of his tenure.
You got to remember, though, he's champion, but so is Taker. So is Michaels. So is, like, he really becomes the face when they all drop off.
Like Randy Orton is somewhere in here.
Eddie
Shawn
Guerrero.
Michaels is back somewhere in here.
There's the Eddie Guerrero of it all.
Eddie Guerrero is a big deal for a couple years there. Chris Benoit is a huge deal for, tiny chunk of time overall.
It's difficult, man, because I'm happy with the list we have so far, but it feels like we're cutting some people short.
Right. Like, even just ruthless aggression alone on here, there's 3 spots that we didn't fill, even if we keep these exactly where they are. And 3 spots for all these guys? For 9 of them? And like, where does Randy Orton come in when it comes to Ruthless Aggression versus PG era?
See, I would almost argue that you kind of, this is going to be crazy, but maybe JBL moves up into Elite and you put Randy where JBL is.
JBL's champion for an entire year. He's doing some stuff as like APA.
He's one of the defining champions of that era. And look, there's an argument that Undertaker's
holding the undisputed title.
There's an argument, and I know Callum's made it several times. This is his best era.
American Badass and all. Goes back in his Undertaker stuff too.
Like bell to bell, this is his best era.
And you figure 2007 is a great year for Undertaker. Is Undertaker like Elite 4 member 1? And then you go like JBL Gym Leader 8. You throw in Randy somewhere in here. And
I would.
Batista's got to be somewhere in the mix though and all too.
But no, I think putting the OVU 4 in back-to-back order is pretty good.
Well, then in that regard though, Brock goes above Randy, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
And then Randy wins world title.
Ray's at the bottom. I mean, we didn't even say Ric Flair. You know,
Ric Flair's another one.
It's a fucking stacked era. Look on Google it, kids. You'll hear a lot about how stacked that era was. We didn't talk about Jeff Hardy. We didn't, like.
And this is like, there's lots of people, of course, that don't come anywhere close. Like, there's no argument for like C.W. Anderson, but like Goldberg is in here for a short time frame. Umaga's in here, but I don't think he ranks above other people. Obviously, we're not going to go like a Shannon Moore. Are there any like really, really prominent women that would deserve to be on that spot?
Trish.
Over any of the other guys, though?
If we put Trish on the list, it's specifically making the point that she deserves to be on the list.
Poor Mark Henry doesn't get on the list. Kane. Completely forgot about Kane around this time frame.
Again, there's Jeff Hardy. Like, there's a lot.
Jeff Hardy is, I feel, a PG era guy. But then again, I mean, he's a big deal in Ruthless Aggression too. Motherfucker, this is hard. Jeff is out of the mix when it comes to reality, at least.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'd go Shawn in Ruthless Aggression.
Not in the like elite section of it.
So out of these 9 people that we have, realistically, we can only fit 2 in here. We might be able to bump somebody, but kind of is what it is. Hogan's not around long enough that I think he deserves to be on a spot like there. The
right
Rock,
now, if you're
overall, I think gets bumped out for one of these other guys because Eddie's a big deal, Ray's a big deal, Benoit's
I'm looking
a big
at Eddie
deal.
and Ray because they make it in this era.
And I wouldn't rank them above Taker, JBL, and all. I'd put Ray somewhere around Edge.
I agree with that.
Like I'd potentially go bump them up, put Ray here, and then man, this is fucking tough. I don't think Benoit or Guerrero overtake a spot for Jericho. I don't think that they overtake a spot for Edge, but Edge I think could potentially be more on the chopping block than even Jericho, funny enough.
See, I disagree completely. I think Edge has to be. This is his peak era, too.
Oh, we're counting 2007 in here. Damn, yeah, that's where we can't. Just go Great Khali. Ruthless aggression. Or did we just say, look, ruthless aggression builds up John Cena. He becomes champion in 05. He's champion in 06, 07, 08. Did we just go, yeah, he overtook Randy Orton and that group and bump him up higher and kind of weigh that differently?
If you want to bump John Cena into the elite section, you mean?
Maybe like Gym Leader 8 or Elite 4-1.
I could go with Elite 1.
Because like he beats JBL. And he is around longer and being a bigger spot than JBL. And Batista's a big, big, big factor.
Okay, so do we do... Is it Batista, Cena?
And maybe Taker still stays in number 3. And then we move JBL to like... When does Randy Orton win his second world title?
07.
And then he wins again in 09?
He wins it twice in 07. And then he wins it again in 09.
So maybe he's in a good spot where he is. Out of these 5 people, we got 4 spots. Placing these people somewhere.
All right, I'm saying Bradshaw.
For Gym Leader 8?
Yeah. Brock probably for Gym Leader. Yeah, it's probably fine.
Maybe Big Show. And then Eddie and Benoit. I mean, technically we don't have a team thing on here. Do we just say like that's a 50-50 split?
Hold on. Move Randy up 1. Put Eddie in. Realistically, Eddie covers the Benoit portion. They got the rise at the same time. Eddie, by default, because one of them is a murderer, is more revered and more celebrated for that era than Benoit is. I think Guerrero is probably the way to go.
I can get on board with that. I was going to suggest maybe combining Eddie and Ray, because Ray picks up the whole like, oh, I'm going to do this for Eddie.
So if you combine Eddie and Ray, then I think that spot goes to RVD.
And since he dropped the ball so much with winning that championship and then just getting in trouble and all, I think that this list makes a little bit more sense. Now, PG era. John Cena's number 1. Okay, we already know that. That's out of the way. I think maybe Randy Orton gets that
Randy
second
Orton's Elite
spot.
4.
I think maybe Edge goes underneath him.
Punk.
CM Punk underneath Edge or CM Punk above Edge?
CM Punk above Edge.
We've got people like Chris Jericho. We've got
the Alberto Del Rio, Sheamus. Miz is definitely a gym leader. I don't know how high up he is.
Obviously, I'm missing some people because I don't even have 9 spots written down.
This is the one where I think Mark Henry gets a spot.
Let's see what they classify on SmackDown Hotel here of era, PG era. Now we're getting NXT into the mix, but it's like very early NXT. And whether it's reality era or it's PG era, I think we need to have a 4 horsewoman representation on one of those two. I think I'd lean more towards reality era, right?
Yeah.
So even if we go, let's go like teams. Yeah, 3MB definitely making the list. Authority, Bella Twins, Big Show, and Mark Henry. Boom Jimmy. What? I thought that they were called R Boom. Okay.
Boom Jimmy.
The Chick Busters. I remember that name. Yeah. The Clones, Shining Stars, Crime Time, Degeneration X. Degeneration X, of course. Shawn Michaels comes back and then does that whole run. Are there any extras that are worth it? We never really look at the extras. No, I don't think so. PG era.
Okay, Sheamus Gym Leader 8. Wyatt Gym Leader 7. Miz Gym Leader 6.
I think Miz can go lower.
Can he?
He wins the title one time, and he's a backseat to The Rock.
Now, granted, but he's also on the rise for this whole era.
That's why I think Miz is kind of like Gym Leader 1, 2, 3. Kind of. Like maybe 3.
Wade Barrett, Gym Leader 1.
Possibility, but he never wins the world title, so I think there's a chance that
Nexus was huge.
He does make a big splash with Nexus. Are there any women that are in the mix here that are worth the women?
Gun to my head, I'd go Kelly Kelly.
Oh God, Vicky Guerrero. Is she worth putting on there?
Oh, the Bellas. The Bellas might have to be. No, the Bella Twins have to be a gym leader.
There's like Maurice, AJ Lee.
Either 1 or 2 on the Bella Twins.
This is like the Candice Michelle and all type of era, but I wouldn't put her higher up than certain people. Look at it, the young Angelo Dawkins here.
Oh, geez.
Rusev, not quite at that time. Brodus Clay, no. It's all blurs together when you start getting into like, okay, there's Chad Gable, but it's NXT, you know. And there's like, so Dolph is definitely on the list. Oh, fuck this guy. Eli Cottonwood, does he go on there for having the best mustache that he doesn't have? Who's Grizz? Cal Bishop? Oh, that sounds a little familiar.
Cal Bishop sounds way more familiar than Grizz.
Somebody we got to put in there probably is Jack Swagger.
Yeah.
On the low end, but like, guy wins a lot of stuff, realistically. Big Brother star Judas Devlin.
Isn't that, what's his face?
Luchasaurus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, look at
fair.
that. Look at Lance Hoyt there, too. You mentioned Mark Henry. Yeah, Mark Henry is another one that could definitely be on this
Mark
list.
Henry's like gym leader 2. I'd put Bella Twins at gym leader 1.
Do we have room for Ray? I don't think so necessarily, right?
No.
What about Ryback?
He feels that hard, but he's a good option.
Poor Shelton Benjamin doesn't get anywhere on that. Technically, we do still have Taker.
But very much less so.
To the point that I don't think Taker goes in the PG era. I think that Taker's just legendary, pops up once in a while. So if we have, how many spots are we left? Like 6 spots left for a group of 13 people that we have on here. I think out of the 13 people, we're definitely giving a spot at somewhere to Dolph. I feel like we kind of have to for Swagger, but he could be bumped. I feel like Mark Henry deserves it. I hate to with Del Rio, but Del Rio is going to be on that list. Just realistically speaking, Jericho is somebody that could be on the list. Jeff Hardy, I feel like, should be.
He could get another early one.
That's 6 right there. Of like,
make Dolph gym leader too. Make Henry gym leader 4.
Maybe Del Rio gym leader 6.
Swap Bray Wyatt and Sheamus.
You think Bray over Sheamus?
Yeah.
See, I'd make the argument Sheamus over Bray because Sheamus wins a Royal Rumble and he wins the world title first.
But I also think that he slips a little bit and he's so closely tied to Del Rio.
There's also Daniel Bryan. There's an option somewhere in here. Well, who do you think would go in Elite Four number 1? Jericho? Hardy?
No.
Hardy does feud with Edge. Triple H is still in this era too.
But very like this is the one where if Triple H was anywhere, it does a member of DX.
And DX is 2006 to when?
2010 when Shawn leaves.
So that's already cutting into the PG era. But I mean, we're getting DX versus Edge and Randy Orton. We're getting
DX wins the tag titles from Jericho.
With 3 spots left and a bunch of these people on there, I think Daniel Bryan doesn't make it.
No.
I don't think any of the women still make it because they're not as serious about the women's division yet. So that includes even like Vicky.
No, because I think the Bell Twins should get the early spot. Because this is around the era where they make Total Divas.
That's true. They do make Total Divas. Maybe Bell Twins number 1 gym leader?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, Jeff's got to be on the PG side.
I'd put him above Mark Henry.
But even then, we got an Elite Four member. Who would we bump up and who gets on the last spot wherever we would put that?
It's weird. Do we just do Batista?
When's Batista leave?
2010.
I mean, it makes sense. Like, they are going into Batista a lot for that. I mean, Jericho, though, only gym leader 1 on Ruthless Aggression and then not anywhere in PG. Me Want title match happens in 2007.
That is true. Maybe bump Dolph because he doesn't.
But Dolph never gets better than when he's in this era.
It's really hard.
Miz doesn't either. And Swagger is kind of a big deal, but Swagger can be definitely bumped over somebody like a Jericho. Ooh, fucking tough again. Goddamn.
Yeah, this one is tough.
I feel like somebody that's watching this would be like screaming at the screen, like, why don't you move this person? Why don't you move that person? NXT's not as big of a deal here, so we can't worry about NXT. That's Reality Era. So I think overall DX doesn't get a spot. I think Jericho needs to go in there above Swagger. It's just who would you bump? Hey, I think maybe you bump Bella Twins, but at the same time, you make a good point with the whole. Or did the Bella Twins get in there for the Reality Era thing? When does Total Divas start? 2013. So that would be at the tail end of the PG era. I think we bump Bella Twins.
I could live with that.
And then I think Jericho goes above Dolph and Miz. I think I'd maybe do Miz number 1 because it's always like an underdog story. And then maybe put Jericho Gym Leader 3. Because Jericho is a big deal, but Hardy, it's really pushed. Does Bray deserve to be that high, though?
I think this might be one of the only chances you get to put him that high.
Or is he part of the Reality Era?
You could make that distinction.
Where is Bray Wyatt on this? Wyatt's classified as NXT on this time frame. Why does he come up to the main roster? So he is Husky Harris 2010 to 2012, Bray Wyatt 2012 to 2019, Fiends 2019. I think we lower Bray, much as I don't want to high up Del Rio. Del Rio did more than Bray in this era.
I think that's fair.
I think maybe Bray's number 1, or maybe Swagger's number 1 over Bray, and maybe Bray goes more into Reality.
Yeah, but he definitely has to be high up on that list.
So Reality, if we're going like 2014-ish, like Pipe Bomb-ish, up until Bloodline, we've got the Shield. Shield needs to be high up. We've got Roman. I think almost like Seth and Dean have to be in the 2 and 1.
See, if we could just do 3 people battles, I would just say the
triple
Shield.
battles. Roman's above Seth, and Seth's above Dean for sure.
Yeah, I mean the hierarchy of those dudes is exactly that. It's wild how hard this is.
4 Horsewomen 100% gets on here.
But which combination?
I was even just thinking 4 Horsewomen. That's like a group. Charlotte, Becky, Bayley, and Sasha. There's an argument for Paige. We've had AJ Lee. It's a potential mix in the PG, but yeah.
It's so hard because I would say PG that I can make the argument for the era that comes after.
There's somebody like a Rusev in this era who's a big deal. He doesn't win a world title, but you know, there's who do we got for? Oops, not roster by year. Reality Era. Like main roster, because mostly NXT is not gonna factor in there. Zack Ryder, unfortunately, is not gonna make the list.
No.
Oh yeah, Tongalo. Stardust not gonna make the list. this isn't even counting some of these other people that are still on there, like Sheamus and Edge is still around for part of that. Batista's not really. Dolph Ziggler, I don't think makes it as high up as, like, you know, he didn't upgrade super duper well. If he's in the mix at all, he's still in the lower end. You got Sami Zayn, you got Ryback now. That might be the list to work with, all things considered.
Yeah, I think it's a good list. I mean, if it ends up missing a name or two, we could always throw it in there like we do with 1, 2, 3 Kid.
And we could do this. The Wyatt family. That gets rid of a Braun Strowman spot.
You know, yeah, I like that idea, actually.
Because Bray wins a championship in this era. Braun wins a championship in this era. Luke Harper wins the Intercontinental title in this era. Rowan and Harper win tag titles. Bray wins a tag title with Matt Hardy in this era. So Wyatt family makes sense somewhere in there. Triple H, like you said, like, does he get in there as a part of this, or is he just kind of considered a manager? We got Owens. I don't think it's worth giving a spot to Finn Balor.
No. In any era, unfortunately.
Pretty much, yeah. NXT is not as big of a deal still at that point, but we are getting, like, the black and gold. So it's like, do we have a representative from black and gold? Like an Adam Cole, Gargano and Ciampa.
I would say Owens Gym Leader 1. AJ Styles Gym Leader 2.
AJ is a bigger deal for sure. He should get on the list. 4 Horsewomen have to be on here. Punk's gone.
No, he's not on this. He's gone in 2014.
I think Triple H gets mathematically ruled out just from being mostly a manager.
Like I said before, my thought would be to merge him and Stephanie as like a team battle.
I think that's kind of represented by Rollins in some ways. Randy Orton's still a big deal on this time.
Okay, so you have 4 Horsewomen. Realistically, that should just say Charlotte Flair.
Her more than the others, but you figure if this goes up to Bloodline, Becky becomes a big deal.
That's
Bayley
true.
wins title, Sasha wins title. Like, all 4. It's already merging them a lot to be like just all 4 Horsewomen. And I do think that they take a spot over Paige. I'd almost put them at like number 5. Maybe even number 6. To be like, that was a big deal.
Okay, Gym Leader 3.
More so Gym Leader 8.
Okay, so you want to do that?
As we go down the list of importance. Or did we go 4 Horsewomen as number 8? And just be like, hey, look at that. Women's Revolution. You did a big job. That's really important.
That's kind of the way they treated it.
I could see that being the case. Shield and Bryan and Lesnar and 4 Horsewomen kind of define this era, don't they?
Yeah, and right underneath that, I would say the Wyatts.
You got like a Ziggler, you got a Rusev, not a Rusev. Do we get an NXT representation in there? Sheamus is still doing some good stuff. Randy Orton's still a big deal. New Day is setting records. I'd rank New Day lower than Styles, though. Maybe put New Day at like Gym Leader 2. They're like a fun gym that like you can still beat, you know? Maybe
Yeah.
bump AJ up a little bit, depending on where we put other people. You put AJ at 4. Guy fights Brock, yeah.
Now, Miz.
There's Bobby Lashley we won't have anywhere in here.
No.
He's more, I think,
He's more
current.
He's more current.
I mean, he wins his first world title in like pandemic. 3 spots left for this group. It feels like to me like we could use another NXT thing on the lower end. Maybe actually even bump Owens up and put like an NXT thing in number 1.
At that point, I'm putting in. There is Adam Cole.
There's Adam Cole. There's Gargano. There's Ciampa. There's Aleister Black. There's Sami Zayn. There's Shinsuke Nakamura. There's Samoa Joe.
Oh, you know who we're missing? Bump the Horsewomen down to 6.
Down to 6?
Mm-hmm.
Not even bump Wyatt's down?
No, because we're replacing them with other women. We're forgetting about Ronda.
Ronda is...
And there's also
Ronda's
Asuka.
not as important as 4 Horsewomen, I'm going to argue.
But there's also Asuka, who could be the number 1 as like that NXT representation.
Asuka is a big name for that. And there's Rhea Ripley is getting in there.
Rhea Ripley's current. Rhea Ripley is going to be one of the elite in right now.
I mean, she's definitely in that. Asuka. I like the idea about Asuka being on this list.
Asuka, Gym Leader 1.
I still think I put 4 Horsewomen above Asuka and Ronda.
Okay, so I would do Asuka, Gym Leader 1, Ronda, Gym Leader 6. And then who clinches that last spot?
Miz doesn't. Ziggler is more PG era, I think. Paige is kind of in between these two, and she gets overtaken by 4 Horsewomen and Asuka. Bliss is overtaken. Sheamus is he's falling down on the card. What about Randy Orton, though? Where does Randy fit in this?
Randy could be the Gym Leader 5. Like, he's still there, but he's fallen.
Maybe Styles at Gym Leader 5 and Randy at Gym Leader 4.
I could get that. I kind of like this.
And then, unfortunately, like this crew of black and gold is left out.
Yeah.
But they're kind of represented by Kevin Owens.
And Asuka. Don't forget Asuka.
And Asuka, yeah. I think that's pretty healthy. And then the current era, all right, Roman Reigns is champion.
Yep.
I mean, it's the Bloodline era,
Cody
basically.
Rhodes elite.
Cody Rhodes number 2. Or, Elite 4 number 4. I kind of feel like that's the case.
Bianca Belair.
I didn't have... I mentioned earlier that I didn't really write out this whole list.
I would Bianca, if not right under Ripley, then...
She's somewhere in that mix. She's
in the elite spot.
Punk's not there yet. Because he did just come back around.
And I give the final elite spot to Rollins.
He beats Brock. He wins the Royal Rumble. He's always around. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Gym Leader 8 being Becky.
Becky on her own.
Hold on, Gunther.
Well, let's toss out some names. That we know who we're working with.
There's Gunther, there's Becky.
So 205 Live is not going to get any representation. NXT UK is not going to, because Gunther would be the main one for that anyway. AJ is a no for that time frame. Del Rio's still around for that? Fuck him. Yeah, we can't throw in like a Bad Bunny. Sorry, Baron Corbin, you don't make the list, even though I'm a big fan. Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman get fired. I mean, Brock is still around for a good portion of that, but if we're talking Bloodline era, he's passed the torch, so he's not as high up by any means.
It's we're gonna have to put the Usos as one.
Chase
We're gonna have
Parker here.
We're gonna have to put the Usos as one. We're gonna have to put Coach Sammy as one.
The Usos probably do deserve Kevin Owens. Sami Zayn is a big deal in this era. Babatunde is a big guy.
A lot of people aren't.
It's just stupid. Not that I would say he makes the list necessarily, but Dominic Mysterio, man, he is fucking running away with this era in a lot of ways. Edge makes his return, but then he leaves. Street Profits, no. Finn Balor, no. Overall, Damian Priest has been much better off than Finn Balor. Who's Harland?
Parker Boudreaux.
Oh, no wonder I don't remember. Hey, look, Ho-Loon.
Ho-Loon, let's go.
There's Ilya Dragunov. They have Joe Hendry on this list, but no.
But by the way, that's just for anyone who's new, that's just a joke that Tony, like the way that they said his name out of NXT UK.
If I go back and rewatch it, it's probably more like Ilya Dragunov. And it's just like the one time he probably said Dragunov. And it became.
And then you just stretch that to.
Here's a name that we have to talk about.
Yeah, he's a gym leader.
Fucking Logan Paul is going to be on this list. It's like, we're trying to be fair here. For a little bit there, Matt Riddle was a big fucking deal.
Not big enough.
I think he's going to get overtaken, but for a little bit there. Hey, Odyssey Jones, remember him?
Hey, Quincy Elliott, remember them?
Just go down. Hey, Rich Swann.
Hey, Rick Boogs, remember him?
Oh, man, there's too many. Hey, Roof Fang, remember that fucking guy? Rohan Rashid. God damn, there's so many people on this. It's a shame to not be able to put Samoa Joe somewhere on here, but realistically, Samoa Joe is just one of those perpetual what-ifs. Like, they should have done more with him, and it's fucking annoying. And look, Shinsuke's great. Shinsuke ain't making this fucking list. That sucks too. Tiger Tehran is not making this list. Tino Sabatino Pescatelli. Sounds like that's like one of those songs to sing. I mean, we got our people, I think, out of this mix.
LA Knight's probably going to make it.
You think LA Knight is? I mean, I could see an argument. That's not including more of the women.
The women?
But Bianca and Rhea are the two queens.
And we're going to put Becky on the list.
Becky is certainly...
And probably Charlotte lower.
I think Charlotte's been around, been gone long enough that people take priority over Charlotte. I think she's just kind of in legend status now. Bliss hasn't been around as much, so we can't pick her. They're not going to pick like a Carmella.
There's an argument for Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio.
There's an argument. I mean, at least for this past year, they are very prominent. They are running a lot of this. Fortunately, a lot of these people are already taken out of the mix.
I think we know where we're going.
Oh, we could do... What do you think about this? Damian Priest, Finn Balor, Dominic Mysterio, Liv Morgan, and all that. The Judgment Day. That includes Edge's return. That includes Rhea Ripley, but Rhea Ripley gets her own spot because
it's cheeky, but I like it. So I'm saying Gunther. Either we bump him up Elite One, and
the
bump
good thing
Rollins
with current
down.
era is it's adapting. So right now might not be the case in a year. Yeah, because we have like a Braun Breaker, who's like he's somewhere in there, but he's not reached that status yet. Drew McIntyre's got to be high up. I think actually Drew overtakes Gunther.
No,
Drew beats Brock.
but he hasn't beaten Gunther. Gunther's been champion for like 80% of the time he's been in WWE.
Drew number 7 then?
Mm-hmm.
I think on this group, maybe
Usos underneath
Becky.
them. I go Usos, then I go Becky.
Usos and then Becky. I can see that.
Then it's Judgment Day. Kevin, Sammy, Lashley.
What about Logan Paul? What about LA Knight? CM Punk?
All right, merge Kevin and Sammy.
That makes sense. They are perpetually stuck together.
You put the N at the end of Zayn.
Oh, didn't type that.
Logan Paul, Gym Leader 1, and then bump Lashley up. Or does Lashley just get...
I think Lashley might kind of get lost in the shuffle because he...
And then LA Knight 2. Just
and where does Punk come in?
Maybe not yet because he's still fresh. Because right now I feel good that Punk's major era is immortalized in the PG era.
He is in legend status. He is a big deal though. But then again, if we talk about CM Punk and we talk about Final Boss Rock and we talk about John Cena, are we not just doing the same thing as we did with Undertaker in certain eras?
Then you gotta just move everybody down so Final Boss Rock is underneath Roman. And
I think there might be a case to put Logan Paul at number 2 and put Braun Breaker at number 1.
See, I'd put LA Knight at number 1.
My argument for Breaker is he's held the Intercontinental title longer than the United States title for LA Knight, and Braun Breaker was the leader of NXT 2.0.
Oh, we forgot NXT. Oh my God, Trick Williams. Oh, Jesus.
There's Mello and Trick, and there's Roxanne and all
Julia.
that. But that's where I think that kind of Braun takes that spot.
All right, you've just convinced me. It's Braun Breaker.
Well, that is all that stuff. If we could do it quickly, I think we could potentially do an AEW one for anybody that's going to be like, you never talk about AEW.
Moxley.
I mean, we know some people are Moxley, Young Bucks, Kenny Omega,
Hangman Page,
Kazuchika Okada somewhere in there, Adam Page is somewhere in there, MJF is somewhere in there, Sting is somewhere in there,
Mercedes
Moné, Tony Storm, Britt Baker. I feel like we're getting something obvious.
Orange Cassidy.
Orange Cassidy. Maybe we should do AEW all-time roster.
I'd make an argument for Athena.
I think she gets bumped because she's ROH. I mean, ROH kind of fits into the NXT category in some ways. Do we not fucking count Cody? Yeah.
Swerve Strickland.
Possibility for that. Swerve Strickland, Will
Bryan
Ospreay,
Bryan Danielson.
Bryan Danielson.
Okay, I think we have our list.
We have more people that we could fit in there. Jade Cargill doesn't probably make the list. Aaron Solo, of course, doesn't. I actually typed out all the results for today when Aaron Solo lost this match. I typed out Hangman Adam Page beats a jobber because I wasn't paying attention to who he beat, and I had to look it up afterward. I'm like, oh shit, that was Aaron Solo. Yeah, he wouldn't have been happy about that, I'm sure. And you go back to like a very early AEW, Shawn Spears is in that mix, but Samoa Joe is somebody that maybe we get. Samoa
Jericho.
Oh, fuck, that's the obvious one I was thinking of. I'm like, there's something obvious here. Lucha Bros, no, probably not. Malachi Black, probably not. People like Konosuke Takeshita and stuff are very much like in like a new era side of it. If we're going all time, I mean, we have more than enough people here.
Moxley's the champion.
Moxley's somewhere in the mix there, if not champion. Jericho's high up there. Young Bucks are high up there. Kenny Omega's high up there.
I'm going
maybe make the argument that this is the Elite Four. The guys that started the whole thing.
I bumped Jericho down to a gym. Oh, that's not fair.
First AEW champion. I think Page is 7 or 8, and MJF is 7 or 8.
You have to have Page as a elite because he's the main character. Bump Cody down for Hanger.
But then what about the mix between Page and MJF? Are they not like kind of on the same page? Well, the same Adam Page.
I put Page as an elite. I bumped Cody down again 2 spots. Because I put
like that?
No, because I think I put Swerve over MJF right now.
For the grand history of AEW?
Okay, if it's all time, then
because Swerve and Ospreay are in like the new breed.
Yeah, okay, Max has to be higher. I'm putting Sting underneath Cody.
Like Okada's part of this like newer group. I think Mercedes and Tony Storm are part of this newer group kind of too.
But they have to be on there. I'm putting Danielson underneath Sting.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Cassidy underneath Danielson.
I could see an argument where he goes a little lower, as much as I love Cassidy, but
then put Mercedes and Tony. Ooh, wait. Because I think Will and Swerve should get a spot.
We got 3 spots for 7 people. Shit.
I think Gym Leader 1 would be...
I think Okada gets bumped out of that.
I'm going to say Tony Storm has made more history than any other woman.
She's really overtaken like that Britt Baker spot and all.
Then I'm going to say Swerve and Will.
You're thinking Swerve and Will like that?
Yeah.
Over Samoa Joe, Baker, Okada, Monet.
I'm trying to think if I should, because the only other person I'd
Swerve makes history. Ospreay's not been a world champion yet. But Joe was champion, but he didn't have it a long time.
He's so the embodiment of like the spirit.
That's one of those tough things where it's like, look, there's a distinct split as well from like old AEW and new, like current AEW too.
If it's not Ospreay, it's Monet.
I'm okay with keeping this like this. And then we just like it's in flux. If we wanted to split it as old AEW, and then we did that differently, but we've already gone on way longer than I thought we were going to on this podcast. Again, if you want us to do more of these kind of things, let us know, everybody.
God, we're such nerds.
We really are. I was like, oh, this will be a quick thing. We spent 2 hours doing this.
We're incapable of doing anything quick together.
If we're having fun doing it, it ends up being like, all right, this just keeps going and keeps going. So yeah, if you want more things like that, if you want the Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, whatever team things, there's a lot of people that are a lot of lists. I've got like 30 people down for like what would Undertaker's team be and all that. Same thing when it comes to just outside of it. If you want more things like the Kirby one, and you want like and there's a laundry list of different people. There's DC and Marvel alone, like obviously Groot is a grass type. But like grass and ground, what's Groot's team? What's Spider-Man's team? Is he bug flying, or is he bug fighting, or is he whatever? There's a lot to talk about with that. And I have characters from RoboCop to fucking Jigsaw and Patrick Bateman on my list. I got the Ninja Turtles, I got Transformers, I've got Rocky Balboa, I've got Barbie. Spoiler alert, Barbie's fairy type. So if you want more, what's that?
I'm shocked.
Yeah. What do you think Edward Scissorhands is?
Dark Bug.
Steel Fairy.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, you want Predator versus Alien? I got them on there. You want Yoda? I've got Yoda's team in a couple notes and stuff. So if you really like Pokemon, and if you like all the other things that fans of in some way or another, let me know if you want me to make this a series, because I could really dive deep into this. But I'm only going to do it if I have the support, because I have to dedicate the time and everything to that. So keep all that in mind, everybody. Make sure that you share your support in whatever way you can. Make sure you follow us on the Linktree stuff. All my stuff is there at the very least at amangotree.com. But if you want to follow Rob, he's at Dude Felice pretty much everywhere.
I am at Dude Felice pretty much everywhere. Follow my work on Fightful. Check out Fightful Select. Support that team. Support this team. Support the things you like in wrestling media, and I think you'll have a good time.
And I don't know what we're going to get announced for Pokemon Day, but if you want us to talk about that, or you want me to do a video on the side or something like that,
maybe we'll do a dark cast if there's like...
Maybe if there's, we could do bonus features or something.
A lot of good announcements,
Could be. So
maybe a switch to Pokemon ZA announcement or something.
I've been hearing people refer to it as Pokemon ZA, and I'm like, wait, pizza?
Pizza.
Yeah, I could go for some pizza now. All right, everybody, that's going to do us. And thank you for listening to this. Thank you for checking us out. We will see you next time for the hot tags, then eventually the Elimination Chamber post show. Adios for now, though. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.